Good afternoon and welcome to another session of ENG4E. That is Workplace Preparation English, Grade 12, Term 2A, brought to you by Wassa Distance Education Center. I am your English instructor, Mike Laverty. Today's date is Wednesday, March 29th, 2023, and today's class is number 26 of our 34 classes together. So after today, we got 8 more to go before we wrap this term up. So we are talking about Unit 4 today. That's the final unit in ENG4E. And we will begin a discussion about the culminating activity from this unit. So as you'll be quite familiar by now, every unit in ENG4E had key questions in it, and following the key questions there would have been a culminating activity. So you had culminating activities for Unit 1, 2, and 3, and those culminating activities were part of your unit grades, your unit assignment grade for this course, right? So that's a good thing to mention, right? So your I guess the key questions and the culminating are a grand total of 70%, and then 10% of your final mark is the Unit 4 culminating activity, and then 20% is your final exam, for a grand total of 100%. That's your grade in this course. So this culminating activity is worth 10% of your entire grade. So it's a big one, and you should devote a lot of time to it. And so that's what today's class is going to be all about. So we are in week 7 of Term 2A. We have 3 weeks of classes left. And graduation day is coming up, June 15th. Really want to keep that June 15th date in your mind. I'll be reminding you of it pretty much every class. So just know that you've got about 2.5 months to go. And it's Term 2B is going to be starting up very soon. So realistically, you've got enough time to get a course done, to get a credit done, if you haven't started at all, right? So if you haven't started this class and you're just starting it today, you've got the time to finish it off, get yourself a credit. You've got that time. But, to get 2 done, if you haven't started anything yet, that's going to be really challenging to do. So just want to keep those dates in your mind, and in a few minutes I'll put a slide up that shows you, well, it doesn't show you, but I'll give the contact information for the Wassa building, and I suggest you phone and reach out to someone, and we can help you out. So we took care of Unit 1 in weeks 1 and 2. Weeks 3 and 4 we did Unit 2. Unit 3 was weeks 4, 5, and 6, and then here we are, all of week 6 and now a bit of week 7. We're wrapping up Unit 4. And then I want to spend more time talking about the novel, Where the Rivers Meet. So maybe 8 and 9. We'll probably split these. Maybe like a couple of sessions. I'll see how I'm feeling, but I think we didn't give enough time to our novel, so I want to spend more time with that. So ENG4E broadcasts every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 2 p.m. to 2:50 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you're listening to us on the airwaves at 91.9, thanks for tuning in. Maybe you're on Bell ExpressVu, channel 972, where you can also listen to an audio feed. And always note that if you're listening to the broadcast, we would love it if you phoned into the studio at 1-800-465-7144. That's our toll-free number for the studio, 1-800-465-7144. Or you can phone us here in Sioux Lookout, and then starting in April, you have to enter the full area code, so 1-807-737-4017. Or go to zoom.us and join the meeting ID 417-6699-799. That information is in the YouTube description. So look me up on YouTube, Laverty Wassa, and check out my ENG4E playlists, which are just waiting for you. Yeah, so if you want to contact me directly, you can email me at mlaverty, MLAVERTY at nnecschools.org. Find me on Facebook or Messenger. If you search Facebook for Laverty space Wassa, you'll find my professional Wassa Facebook profile. So you can add me as a friend, get my updates, or just simply communicate through Messenger. And if you want to phone our office here in Sulikout, the toll-free number is 1-800-667-3703. My extension is 2211. If you're not sure who to talk to, you'll get a friendly receptionist, and they will guide you in the right direction. So let's have a look at today's lesson, okay? So we're going to look at an article of the day. So on the third day of the week, which is typically a Wednesday, unless we miss a Monday for a holiday or something like that, I like to put up an article that is related to what we're talking about in some way. So this one will tie in with our culminating activity, which is the employability skills portfolio. So we'll look at an article of the day, and then we'll have a look at that skills portfolio, your employability skills portfolio. Your learning goals for today are to take notes as we go over the required elements of this employability skills portfolio. So I'm going to go over the required elements, everything you need to do to complete the assignment. It's a portfolio, so it's full of different kinds of documents. So it's up to you to make sure all of the documents are in there. And make sure they're all in there and make sure they're written up to standard, right? So it's a two-part process, like just making sure you have all the required elements. And some of these are from previous assignments. So you're like looking at your cover letter and then drafting it up for a new job, looking at your resume, polishing it up one last time. And when you're done with this culminating activity, you're going to have a very useful collection of documents that's going to help you get a job. And that's why we're doing this. So I want you to take notes as we go over the required elements, and then I want you to review your previous work in this class and reflect upon what you've learned and accomplished so far. So that's a big part of learning too, right? Learning isn't just this like endless cycle of adding new information to your brain and just piling it on and just adding more stuff to the computer, right? It's learning is often, going back and reflecting and looking upon what you've done and being happy with it and having a sense of accomplishment over what you've done and what you've learned. So it's a really important process to do. And then when you do that, it gives you confidence, and it gives you a good attitude for the future, and it helps you learn other things, right? So it's always good in life to be like, you know what, I've been through a lot of stuff. I've learned a lot of things. I know a lot of stuff now that seemed impossible before, right? So just have that pride in yourself and know that you can do it because you've done it before. Because as we all know, life has its up and downs, and there will be hard days and brutal days and amazing days and everything in between. And it's good to just remind yourself that you've been through a lot and you're a strong person and you can learn new things. And even if something is challenging right now, you know that you can you can push yourself through. So your success criteria. So today we're going to talk about the writing process and as it relates to the three written components. And I say written components because even though the cover letter is in there and your resume is in there, these three assignments are asking you to produce some brand new, like completely brand new writing. one of which is a memo titled My Plans for the Future. And then there's 2 information reports. One is on post-secondary opportunities, and one is on a chosen career / specific occupation, right? So it's your plans for the future, going to school, trying to get a job, and looking at some educational opportunities and looking at some specific jobs that you could apply for. Okay, so with that in mind, I found an article in the Globe and Mail, which is my preferred newspaper. I read this one all the time. I have the app on my phone, so I get the articles that way. I have them on Facebook too, and then when they share an article I want to read, I just click on the link and I read it. I love the Globe and Mail. It will read the article to you, not all the time. They have a feature on there where it'll read the article to you, and it doesn't really sound like a robot reading you a story. It sounds like an actual human, even though it might actually be software. I'm not sure. It's hard to tell sometimes. And they also have lots of great podcasts too, right? So just lots of audio content in addition to the articles they put out. So this one's got a headline which reads, BC lifts age limit on free tuition for those who were once in foster care. This was published in the Globe and Mail, March 14th, 2023. The photo caption reads, Selena Robinson during a press conference in Victoria, BC on February 21st, 2022. Chad Hippolito is the photographer who took this image. I believe she's the minister of BC, which we'll find out in a sec. So that's our headline. BC lifts age limit on free tuition for those who were once in foster care. And I just want to, I like to, bring us back to the foundations every week, and we talk about the parts of speech. So we're talking about the 9 parts of speech that I strongly encourage all my students to become familiar with and to have this stuff be known to you like second nature. So BC is a noun. It's a special kind of noun. It's a proper noun. It's a specific place, and therefore if we spell it out, British Columbia, capital B, capital C. Lifts is what they did. BC lifts limit, right? But they didn't just lift any limit. So lift is a verb, it's an action. They lifted an age limit. So adjectives come in an adjective noun combo, and the adjective age modifies the word limit, right? So it's an age limit. On, so prepositions are relationship words. They tell us where something happened. On, under, beside. They tell us when something happened. They tell us who it happened to. So the age limit on free tuition. So it's not a limit on tuition. It's a limit on free tuition. So again, we've got that adjective free modifying the noun tuition. For those who were in foster care. So for is another preposition. Those who. These are examples of pronouns. So they're pronouns that stand in the place of students. So they could simply say for students who were in foster care, but they just said those who. Were is a verb, in is another preposition, and we're not just talking about regular care, we're talking about foster care. So that adjective noun combo is seen all over the English language, and it's a very important tool to tell the reader specifically what you're talking about and to offer them, it's always good to, my favorite 2 words and the advice that I give to my students all the time is be specific, right? Be specific. Tell the reader exactly what you're talking about. Get us down on the street level. tell us what things look like, what they smell like, what they feel like, what they sound like. You know, that's what readers want. They want the details. They want relevant, specific details that tell us about a particular time, place, thing, right? So here's the article itself. The British Columbia government is opening to all ages its tuition waiver for those who are in foster care in the province. The program was launched in 2017, waiving fees for people who had been in care from the ages of 19 to 26, but starting next August, that restriction will be eliminated. To be eligible for the program, students must be studying full or part-time at an undergraduate level at a BC public post-secondary institution, the Native Education College, or one of 10 approved trades training providers. So, of course, secondary education is high school. Post-secondary education is education you take after high school, and typically one of the prerequisites, one of the requirements for entering a post-secondary program is having your high school diploma, or in your case, your Ontario Secondary School diploma. Pre means before, post means after. It also allows for as much as $3,500 a year to cover educational expenses such as textbooks, internet costs, and computers. Since the waiver program was introduced, 1,900 students have had a total of $13 million in tuition and fees waived. The government says the extension will be funded by $19.2 million over 3 years and is expected to support an extra 1,200 students. Selena Robinson, so she's not the Minister of British Columbia. She is the Minister of Post-Secondary Education. She says that removing the age restriction will reduce barriers to post-secondary education, support people in pursuing good paying and meaningful jobs, and support a more inclusive, balanced, and diverse workforce. So, have a quick look at that. So, Selena Robinson, the Minister of Post-Secondary Education, So that's a very common tactic or strategy to use in your writing when you introduce a person's name or when you introduce an organization. You say the person's name, then you put a comma, then you say who they are, and then you put another comma. That information could also be in brackets, but I think the comma works better here. She says removing the age restriction, quote, will reduce barriers to post-secondary education. So when you quote someone else's words in your writing, you use the quotes as, number one, to distinguish their words from your words, which is really important, especially in the field of journalism when people are reporting on events. And when they report on events, they often include direct quotes from people. So, when you quote someone directly, you got to be really careful that you do quote them directly. And when you write the article, you can sometimes just you can write a sentence that starts off in your words and then switches to their words and ends there, or maybe your words come after, right? But so you can just set up a quotation to be a separate sentence, or you can incorporate their words into your writing. Okay, so with that said, let's jump right into our culminating activity. So as I mentioned, we're working on an employability skills portfolio. And a portfolio is just simply a collection of documents that have been put together for a specific purpose. So I believe that the original definition of the word portfolio would have applied to, say, artists. And, visual artists will have a portfolio, and then nowadays it's much more commonly like a digital portfolio, where they'll have like a website, or they'll have like a jump drive, for example, or just some way they can show someone all the stuff they've done. So it's a portfolio is a collection of work from one person. In the business world, we talk about your investment portfolio, right? And your investment portfolio is all the different things that you're investing in, the stocks you own, your pension contributions, your stake in this company, your dividends, all that, right? So that's your portfolio. It's all the things that you're investing in. But an employability skills portfolio is like a folder, whether it be a digital folder on your computer or Google Drive, for example, or it's a physical document that you walk around with and you might bring to a job interview. So that's what it is. It's a collection, right? So your culminating activity for this unit will be to develop a portfolio, as described a little at the beginning of this unit. Your portfolio will show your understanding of career planning and the job search process, which, hopefully, you have gained during this unit with a collection of items that will focus attention on employment-related material. In putting your portfolio together, you will also be demonstrating organization skills and the ability to follow instructions. You will need a folder entitled ENG4E Employability Skills Portfolio in which to place a list of required items as follows. So there are many components of this assignment, and it's your responsibility to collect them and to make sure that they all make their way into your portfolio. So the first one is a memo. That is my plans for the future. A copy of your resume, fully revised and edited. So that's important to keep in mind, because one of the previous key questions, key question 39, was about you drafting a resume, and so you're gonna edit it a bit more, polish it up one last time before you put it into your portfolio. You will produce a new cover letter. This one's going to be for a new job posting. So key question 38. Yeah, 38 was the cover letter. 39 was the resume. 40 was the interview question. So your cover letter in key question 38. So that's what you did to complete key question 38. You need to write a new one. And as I mentioned in a previous class, I think, during our class on cover letters, I mentioned that people will often have a completed cover letter and then they'll just modify it slightly for each new job, or maybe modify it significantly for each new job. But you have the template. You have that 3-paragraph format you can follow, but you're going to change it for a new job posting for your portfolio. You will you will submit a completed job application form. You will, and that can just be copied from key question 37. You will submit your interview questions along with a copy of the job posting that you applied for that job, right? So if we go back to our discussion yesterday's class, we were talking about the interview questions that you do in relation to a specific job. So you will submit those interview questions along with a copy of a job posting. Then you will do a telephone interview with yours truly, with me, your teacher. So that will require you to phone me, and I will ask you those questions, and you will simply read out your answers, and then you've got that part done. So the telephone interview, like, it's not going to be in the portfolio, but it's part of the assignment, if hopefully that makes sense. And then you have to do 2 information reports. So one is, as I mentioned earlier, talking about post-secondary education opportunities, and the other one is your chosen career-specific occupation. So for your portfolio, you only have to give me your final copy. It's assumed that a rough copy was used to write it, and then you used it to revise it, but you just need to give me final copies. So all of your items in the portfolio, except for your application form and interview answers, must be printouts from a computer. Right, so your interview answers are going to be given over the phone. Your application form could be a digital printout too. It doesn't have to be a physical one. Note, if there happens to be a problem with a printer, etc., and you are unable to obtain a computer printout of your items, please let your teacher know. In addition to receiving a mark for each of the items contained in your portfolio, you will be receiving marks for neatness and organization of your portfolio presentation. So 5 marks for neatness, 5 marks for the organization. And so the first page in your portfolio will be a table of contents. So you do need to give a table of contents organized as follows, and the remainder of the portfolio. So you have to have these. So you'll have a title page, a first page, and it'll read table of contents, and then you'll just simply list it. So the memo, the resume, cover letters, job application form, interview questions and answers, and your 2 reports. And there's a breakdown. So the memo is 10 marks, resume is 10 marks, cover letter 10 marks, the job application form 5 marks, interview questions 10 marks, phone interview 20 marks, information report 15 marks, second information report 20 marks, neatness and organization 10 marks, for a grand total of 110 marks. So let's have a look at some of these specific components of the portfolio. So what I want to do with you is I want to just focus on, since we've already spent a considerable amount of time talking about cover letters and resumes, and those are very important documents, but I think the best use of my time and the best use of your time is that we go over the written components. So that's these 2 information reports and this memo. So you need to write a memo to your teacher in response to the phrase, "My plans for the future." Your message will be a paragraph containing at least 7 sentences. 10 marks. So you're going to do yourself a memo. And you can do the format, so to, from, date, subject, or date, to, from, subject, and then the message that follows, right? So let's do that together. I'll open up Microsoft Word, and we'll all right, so here's a memo example that I had from a previous assignment. So we've got date, to, from, the CC is in there, someone else in the organization. So I don't think, there we go. I'm not going to add a CC on this one, but I will have the subject. Let's see, date, to, from, and subject. Date, to, yeah, so I'm doing that one. The date, to, from, and the subject. So date, that's an easy one. We'll just put today's date for the time being. You're going to send it to me. I'm the 2, right? To Mike Laverty, Wausau Distance Education Center. You could even say English teacher at Wausau Distance Education Center. And this is from the best student ever. First name best, middle name student, last name ever. And did it actually say the subject? In response to the phrase, "My plans for the future." Okay. I think we're going to run with that. That'll be my subject here. I'll put some notes in here. So as I've demonstrated on a few occasions, when I'm working on documents, and I know that the document that I'm working on has like specific criteria. So if it's a workplace document, or if I'm writing a story, if I'm writing fiction, which I haven't done for a while, but I do love doing, then I often give notes to myself and that's so I can go back later and delete it, right? So that's, and you don't have to do that, but that's just a writing tool that has worked for me and has given me a lot of success. So I would suggest you try it. So sometimes what I do is I put it in all caps and I say, think of a better subject. And maybe one will come to me after I've written for a bit and I've brainstormed a few ideas. So the memorandum is, you know, the instructions say it's got to be at least, one paragraph, or it's going to be in paragraph format. But you can do more than one paragraph, and you might want to start with that. Um, you might want to start with by looking at the function of each paragraph. So paragraph 1 is you start with a direct and brief introduction that states the reason for the memo. I'm gonna highlight that in yellow too because I'm gonna erase it once I feel that I like what I've got here. All right, and then we can delete the writing in there. And so it's so when you're talking about your plans for the future, there are some sort of key details that I think you should include here to sort of set the timeline, set the story. Because really what you're doing is you're telling a story about, what your plans are, like, what you want to do. So you're sort of laying out a vision for the future, which is a really beneficial and, could be a very enriching exercise, right? It is awesome to stop and to just think about what the future could look like, and just sort of, one of the questions we had looked at was, that a common question that an employer could ask is like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And that's just a good question you can ask yourself, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see your family in 5 years? Do you see yourself living in the same place, working at the same job? Do you think of working somewhere else? That kind of a thing, right? So I would, in that first paragraph, I would, I would say you should introduce yourself and, briefly describe the purpose of this memo, right? So they know who it's from, they know who it's going to, they know the subject, but so introduce yourself. So my name is the best student ever, and I am enrolled in one of your courses, ENG4E. I wanted to share a plan for my future. I wanted to share with you. I wanted to, it's just, I wanted to share a plan, you might want to say like where you are in your journey. It's like, for example, like I need three credits to graduate, and earn my OSSD. The Ontario. Whoops. Don't do that. Secondary school diploma in brackets OSSD. And if I use that word again, I'll just simply use the acronym. So my name is the best student ever, and I am enrolled in one of your courses, ENG4E. I need 3 credits to graduate and earn my Ontario secondary school diploma. I wanted to share a plan for my future with you in the hopes that you can offer me some guidance. So there we go. And so when you approach these writing assignments, you can just jump right in and start writing. But what I'm doing here is, the writing process is there's the planning process, there's the things that, you know, you're writing about the assignment, you're giving yourself like almost like you're talking about the assignment and telling yourself the stuff you're going to put in the assignment. So you might want to do like a planning session where you just jot down point form notes, or you might want to just say the order of the things you're going to tell your teacher, or you just simply go in there and start writing it. So it's up to you what you want to do there. But introduce yourself, briefly describe the purpose of the memo. Paragraph 2, you will describe your plan. I'll say plans, maybe more than one, for the future by providing, I would say 2 to 3 specific examples with timelines if possible. So you could talk about when you hope to graduate, program you could take, job you could apply for, etc. And then in the third paragraph, you can end with a clear closing and call to action. You can add a deadline here today. So you could say something like, please respond by sending me an email, and then you can actually provide that email address. Or or phone, or you could talk about your Facebook. Why did that one go so small? Just my font sizes are looking. There we go. Helvetica 15. Okay. So there you go. So that's the memo. It's, you just follow that memo template. You just put memorandum at the top. You can center it. You could also just say memo if you want. I think we've come this far. I like using the full memorandum. All right, so you follow that format, and then one thing you might want to do as well is, like, I'm just going to save that to my desktop so I don't forget it, and it's going to give it an appropriate title, Unit 4 Culminating Activity, in brackets, memo. So I could come back to this, and if you're like me, then if you've got like a whole bunch of different assignments and different components, I'm definitely not the kind of person who does them all in order. Like, do this one, do that one, and not move on to the next one until everything is fully completed. I often like to jump around and to fill a bit of this one in, get bored of that, jump over here, fill this one in. And that's just the way I work. That's always been my process, and that process works for me. But I know, so it's got strengths. It keeps me motivated. It keeps me from not getting bogged down and discouraged. But I know that given my own brain and my own tendencies, that I do sometimes tend to just jump around, and I can lose focus. So I've got to have a purpose in mind, and I wouldn't want to jump around between more than two or three different assignments or different components of an assignment. But I think in this case, it actually makes a lot of sense to jumping back and forth between them. So this memo, my plans for the future, is going to tie in directly with your post-secondary information report and your career opportunity information report. So you're writing two information reports as well. And so I would recommend doing that. So I'm actually going to open up a new Microsoft Word document, and I'm going to open up, and let's just look at that requirement here for our report, so we're not missing anything. So you need to write a brief information report describing 1. Any local post-secondary education opportunities which exist in your home community, and 2. Opportunities for work. Note, if you are working already, comment on your present job situation and whether you are happy with how things are. Your report will be at least 2 paragraphs in length. And the second information report is on a chosen career/specific occupation examined using any websites on a computer at your learning center or at home. Your chosen career occupation for this report will be one of genuine interest to you, right? So choose one that you honestly think you have a shot at getting, and it's not a job that you can get right now, but it's a job that you could get if you got out there and got some specific training and things like that. So something realistic that you could do, right? In your report, your report will consist of at least 3 paragraphs, so it's a bit longer than the other one. In your report, you will comment on information you have read concerning positive and negative aspects of the occupation, levels of education required, salary information, and anything else you would like to mention. So it's really you're going to pick one career, one occupation that you could investigate, that you could work at. Like something realistic, right? So we only have time to talk about one of these, so let's talk about this one. So it's any local post-secondary education opportunities which exist in your home community, and 2, opportunities for work. I'm just consulting the all right, and so for that one, we can actually use the I'm gonna pull up a report I use for a different assignment. Oops. Just 1 second. I'm trying to find that report that I did. Ah, well. Oops. New share. Let's go back to here. And let's open up our Sorry, just give me 1 second. There we go. I have found it. Okay. So I'm going to save this one. Save as. It is Unit 4 culminating activity, but it's my report. Then I'm going to change that title at the top. So this is my report. And this one is on post-secondary opportunities and job opportunities. And then maybe for tomorrow's class, I'll dig up my template that we did for a different class for filing a report. So just for the time being, I'm going to cut all that out and just talk about some, you've got to talk about two main things, right? So post-secondary opportunities in your community, right? That's the first thing you've got to talk about. Or you could say in my community. Whoops. So it's like a little subheading there. And the second thing you're going to talk about is job opportunities in my community. Yeah, and so really what you're doing here is now we can delete that. You are thinking about your particular circumstances. So what is happening in your part of the world, right? So this is Unit 4, ENG4E, culminating activity. And it's an information report. So things you can talk about, you can just simply say, identify if there are any opportunities. Is there any organizations in your town that provide post-secondary education? And I want you to think like, don't just so I want you to, think about physical locations such as schools or a band office or a community center, something like that. And also think about online learning, right? Is there a place in your community? Is there a place where you can study online? Learning center the learning center is a great example, right? So just think about stuff like that, right? And then the second part of the question is like the job opportunities in your community. So for that, you could discuss, where jobs are posted, and you could talk about the main employers. But that's all the time we have for today. That's a good spot to end off. We will finish this culminating report activity in tomorrow's class. Thank you for tuning in.